we?
Yes.
Yeah, and in fact, I think a lot of us wish we could have drawn out, that God would draw out a plan for us and show us how we should live and what we should be doing, right? We might even think this could make our lives easier and we could avoid, or could have avoided, some of the pitfalls of the past. But guess what? Doesn't work that way, does it? But yeah, you know what? God does have a plan for us, and God's plan is our purpose in life, which is always good. Now, to define your purpose is a whole different thing, but if you just put in your mind that God's plan for us is the purpose that we are here on this earth to be doing something, and that it's always good, we're moving in the right direction of finding out exactly what our purpose could be. Now, I know that a lot of people have gone through stuff that might not have been that pleasant, or maybe it veered you in a different direction than what you thought you should be going. And that's okay, because those bumps in the road are actually the places where we learn and grow and become a better person and who we are, if we're choosing to keep following the path of God's will. Now, you know, sometimes we you know, think that God's will might not be for our good, like something that has happened. Oh, God wanted that to happen to me because of blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work that way. If God is always good, then we're not going to have anything in our way unless we have created it in our own human existence, okay? So how many times have you thought about the question, what is my purpose in life? Yeah. I think that most people from time to time think, okay, what am I here for? Exactly. Or what am I supposed to be doing? Right. You know, what is next for me in my life? You know, am I just supposed to sit around here and eat bonbons all day? You know, or maybe you're even puzzled about what you're going to eat for lunch today, because that's in the realm of what's God's will for me. And when we break it down into these questions, we start getting confused, or we start getting troubled, or we start wondering, why doesn't God just give us this simple plan where we can just follow it and go? But the idea, it goes back to the idea of our purpose and the idea that we have free will. And free will means that we get to choose. And we don't always choose the best, do we?
No, we don't.
But God's will is always the best. Now, how do we align those two and keep them on the same path? Well, we can look at purpose. Let's look at that first. There's different kinds of purposes, believe it or not. Purpose can mean reason or cause. Why an object, action, or plan exists. And I think this is where we always start. You know, why is this happening? What is our next step? Where are we going to go? And we play the part in it, and we get to decide what is the next thing that we do, or why are we existing on this earth? Am I supposed to be learning more, doing more? And we have to start defining that for ourselves, but we have to look at the idea of what kind of action or what our part is in this idea. And I think we start out with that idea is, how did I get here? You know, how did I get here right now today? What has led me to this place? And believe it or not, everything that has led you to this place has brought you to the highest good. And whether or not something tragic happened yesterday or this morning or whatever, it doesn't matter. It still has brought you to this place in your life where you get to choose, what is the next thing for me? I get to look at the purpose of why I'm even breathing on this earth. And that leads us to maybe looking at goals. And purpose could mean a goal or an aim, the target or result you want to reach, right? Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. And how many people have set goals? How many people at the first of the year set goals that half of them, or most of them, they're not even going to complete? Yeah, you can keep your hand up all day for that one. But the thing is that when we have discovered something in our lives that we want to see different, we get to set a goal. We get to try to achieve a new destiny or a new place. And, you know, sometimes it's because we're keep asking ourselves, what am I supposed to be doing? Why am I here? That you start thinking about different ways to fulfill your purpose. Like, okay, this time I'm going to set these goals. Let's see if I can follow one of them even. But you know, a lot of times when we have set all these goals and we don't follow through with them, what do? We start giving ourselves negative feedback. Oh, you know, you were too lazy, you just couldn't do it. No, you just procrastinated. No, you ate the cornbread. Whatever it was that you give yourself that excuse that you're not going to be successful, and we can't do that. Those little steps back that happen are just there because we know we got to keep moving forward. And maybe that those little steps backwards are directing us to think about something differently than what we've been doing. And that's okay, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, you don't want to think the same thoughts every single day, right? And keep going on. And we do that when it's negative stuff. We beat ourselves up or pound ourselves. Oh, there you go again. There you go again. Didn't say nothing. No. We have to be able to say, hey, here I go again. This has happened again, but who cares? I'm not going to let it take me down that path. I'm going to brush it off, and I'm going to say a prayer and move forward, which is a whole lot better place to be than pounding yourself down away from the goodness of God. So, we know we will be successful, but if we choose to be successful, we will be successful, right? We will.
Right, yes.
We will. We keep saying that, don't we? We say we will. And that takes us in a different place than where we're really going. It goes back to that, oh, well, we're supposed to have intention before, but I'm going to jump here. We go back to that place where we have interjected our will into the plan and pushed out God's will. Because when we start saying, well, we will do something, we will quit eating the cornbread, we will quit putting ourselves down, then we haven't stopped to actually recenter on the truth of our being and say, okay, how does my will and God's will come together again? How do I make this just one path? And when I do that, it changes everything. It changes everything because no longer are we just making it about us, that small end mind. We're doing something else. And that's when we can set an intention. Doing something on purpose means you planned it, right? So we look at that idea of what kind of hurdles have been in the way. What is it that keeps causing me to do that? And we might look at those hurdles and say, okay, I planned this so that I'm not going to hit that hurdle. But who knows? You might hit another hurdle. You might keep bumping back and forth like you're playing a pinball game. And that's okay. You can't let that bruise you or discourage you. You have to lift yourself up in prayer. And again, when you come here on Sunday, that's a perfect thing to put on your prayer slip. Give me strength. Give me God's will and my will to be one. And bring it forth in your life. And, you know, when we start saying it's all about what we want, then that's where everything gets crazy. Now, I know I've said that your will and God's will are one. I've said this over the years from the beginning. But we have to be able to say that and be that and know that. You know, it's kind of like faith. You can say you have faith, but the minute you start doubting, do you have faith? No, you don't. So it's the same thing with God's will and your will. If you want to say they're the same thing, because I say this all the time, they are the same thing. It's our small end mind or our own ego that separates it. Because if we're truly expressing from the place of will, then we are expressing from God's will. When we start expressing our will, that's really more our ego rather than our will. Got me?
Yep.
So then that takes us to this place of inner drive. And now the inner drive is kind of a neat thing because that's a strong personal feeling or direction and meaning in life. It switches right here on this idea of purpose. When we start having that inner drive, that's when we know it's God's will coming forth. That's when it changes everything. It becomes this energy that is just going to send you straight where you need to be, send you straight out there into the world, following a path that will seem divine. And that energy, once you tap into it, it gives you more and more of that good energy. And that good energy is kind of like, the Super Bowls. Remember those when they came out? I mean, if you ever had one, actually, I found out they came out in 1964, which blew my mind. But I remember getting one for the first time, and those things just bounced like crazy, and they just keep bouncing, and they bounce all over the place, and you could bounce them way up in the air. My mom would get mad because it hit the ceiling, and I'm sure we put marks on the ceiling. But anyway, that's what happens to us when we first feel that energy. We're like that Super Bowl, bouncing all over the place. But once we can reel it in and say, hey, wait, this energy is great, and it's God's will. That's what's sending me. That's what's sending me on my purpose in life. That's what's giving me this energy. And when we realize that, everything, you could go down the list and everything starts clicking off in a different way in your mind. You know, whatever it is that you're trying to figure out. Am I supposed to be taking this job? Am I supposed to be taking this class? Am I supposed to be scrolling on my phone right now? Am I supposed to be, all these things that show up in our daily lives? You'll know that it's going to be directing it in a higher energy frequency. Now, our purpose begins with the alignment, aligning our will with God's will. And this is where we have to take that energy and make sure we're making the choices that align with that energy. Haven't you done something, and maybe you not felt the energy of God's will, but I'm sure you've all have done something that gave you a boost in what you're doing, or a boost made you feel more energetic, or made you think, oh wow, I got that room cleaned out, or I got that drawer cleaned out, or whatever it was, and you're like, yes, that feels so much better. Celebrate all those little places where we align with our highest good, because that's how we activate God's will in our life. Because we know that if we are activating places like that, it's going to come forth. Now, we know that free will is our personal will that can guide us or destroy us, right? Because you have to allow your free will to work in order to survive, really. But it can destroy you when you let the ego get out of control. When we believe it is all about us, we lose. When we put ourselves first, we lose. Now, I know that everybody always says put the oxygen mask on yourself first, which, is a good analogy to do. Although, we've all been around narcissists too, haven't we? Where they think it's all about their oxygen and nobody else's, and they're gonna cut off your oxygen because it's all about them, and whatever you're doing isn't enough or good enough or whatever, and they will make you feel less than. And so the important thing here is, in this analogy, is it's okay to take and put the oxygen mask on yourself as long as you are still in alignment with trying to bring together your will and God's will. It's not about that person or the other person or who needs to be first or who doesn't. It's about seeing everything come together and meld together as one. And the good news about this is that oxygen mask analogy, when that happens, your own instincts kick in. How many times, I don't know how many times everybody's been on a plane, but every time I've been on a plane, they always do the spill. The oxygen mask drops down, that whole thing. So if you haven't ever, who hasn't ever been on a plane? Oh, you haven't? Ooh. Well, our kids haven't either yet, but we want to take them up sometime. But
Warren, did you just raise your hand?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
He's not aligning his will and God's will. He's trying to get me to say he's a liar too, but I'm not going to go there.
I'm not flying with you.
But anyway, they do say that. I know you've seen it on movies where the flight attendant will say, that drops down. But your instincts will kick in, because that's why they repeat it every time you get on a plane. So that instinctively you will know. And so if we can train ourselves to instinctively know that we are combining our will with God's will, then we're going to always feel that and know that we want that energy to come forth when we do have to make a decision, when we do have to figure out what our purpose is in this moment. What is our purpose for our life tomorrow? Whatever it is, when these two are combined, our natural instincts like boost those feelings within us, and that energy that we have just experienced will be amplified and really be so balanced that you won't even be able to stand yourself because it'll be so great. But that's how we figure out our purpose. And we have to do it, systematically, because first we instruct ourselves over and over again to listen to the energy of God by reminding ourselves and repeating to ourselves through prayer and meditation that we are one with God. This is like the flight attendant saying that about putting the oxygen mask on. We have to be our own flight attendant. We have to be the ones to say that we are aligned with the oneness of God and that we can call that forth in any moment of any day to satisfy our own small M minds for making us go crazy when we're trying to figure out what our purpose is or what is God's will for our life. If we start with that, we are on the right path. And then, if it is time to do something, our instincts and intuition, which is wisdom, will direct us if we are open to God's will. And we will be open to God's will because we've already aligned with God and affirmed that we are one with God. Right?
Right.
Right. So, it's a great place to be when we're like that. We don't want any traumatic experiences or anything else, or the narcissist in our life, or anybody else to rock our boat, to take us and shake us off of that instinctive, intuitive trust that we have in God's will. And the thing about this is that the truth is we need the connection in order to grow in consciousness. We need each other to be all that God created us to be. And this connection is the idea that we are connected, God's will and our will. Everybody do this with your hands. But we are also connected to each other once we activate that power within ourselves. See? It's the coming together of that energy. Feel it. Like bring it together. And then open it up and give it out. Yes. You feel that? Isn't that great? Mm-hmm. And I say the very gateway of will is I am statements. And it is important. When we recognize the I am and add these two words to statements of truth, we build up our consciousness and align with God's will. That's why we're here today. We're here to hear those positive words, those I am statements, those things that connect us to that truth, that Christ within. And we're here to come together and share in that energy back and forth of the giving and receiving of God's will and our will and with each other. And it does take that connection. It does take that beingness to be the light of the God within us, to share that and to know that. And that, that's love and expression too, is the idea that we can do this, that we can come together like this. And if you're divided by your will and God's will, it's okay because it takes practice. It's just another thing for us to practice. We call unity practical Christianity because we say we are practicing what we're learning. And all of us are not going to walk out this door and be perfect about what I'm saying today. But you know what? You are perfect in the eyes of God. So you can activate it at any time. And you can remind yourself just by bringing your hands together. And I shared this analogy a long time ago, but sometimes when we're thinking about what we're supposed to be doing next, what our purpose is, how do we bring God's will and our will together, you can think about, you can take time to stop and dance, and we can easily realign. Now you might be wondering what dance has to do with the whole thing. But look at this. Aren't we asking God for a map? We're asking God for a plan. We're asking God for guidance, right?
Right.
Guidance. You hear the word guidance? It's got dance in it. And it goes like this. The G stands for God, the U stands for you, God, and I is ourselves, and then dance, meaning God, you, and I dance together. Guidance is just God and you dancing together. Isn't that cool?
Mhm.
So all we have to do when we're wondering what our purpose is say, come on, God, dance with me. Dance with me. I'm asking you. And God's going to dance with you. And you're going to be directed. And the only problem is when we let our ego will get in the way. And I have to tell a little story. When I took PE, it was all girls. You know, we didn't have co-ed PE. And so we used to have dance lessons as part of PE. I don't know if your class did or not. But yeah. And so I had been taking dance. And so my coach always said, well, we have to have some of you be the male part and some of you be the female part. So they always wanted me to be the male part because they knew I'd taken dance and they knew that that I could pick up the steps real easy or whatever. So I always led because the male part is to lead, you know, whether you're learning the waltz or the two-step or whatever it is. So all that was great, except for when you finally have the opportunity to go to a dance and you're dancing with some guy and you're trying to lead and they're stepping on your toes or you're stepping on theirs and they don't want you to lead. Not a good plan, you know. Wasn't well received. And it's the same thing when you think about dancing with God. You know, do you want to step on God's toes? Do you want to be the lead? Or do you want God to lead? And all we have to do is step back and go, wait a minute. I can let God lead me. I can ask for this guidance. And I can dance with God all the way to find my purpose, to find the place where my will and God's will are divinely coming to me, bring me forth to my highest good. And I want that energy like a bouncing ball. I want that like a super ball, I should say. And we just keep on going. Don't you? Don't you want to be in that place?
Oh, yes.
So why do we want to practice and listen to God's guidance? To be in that glorious place where we know that our purpose is right there, revealing itself to us each and every day. And where we are in a place where we are all experience this together. Because our purpose in life will be revealed to us and our consciousness will be expanded as we grow closer through the will of God. Thank you for being here today. That was fun, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Yes, it was.
Who's going to go dancing today? Everybody should have your hand up. You all should be dancing with God today.
Oh,
Come on,
yes.
who's going to dance today? Let's
Yes.
do this again.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, my song is, it is from some place called My First Love Worship, which I've never heard of before, but you make all things beautiful.